Pictures in my head of the final destination.
He's making a list. He's checking it twice. He's gonna make sure cheaters pay the price. It would seem the 6th Final Destination movie is happening. When my boyfriend told me, I couldn't believe it. Final Destination and I have had a very interesting relationship throughout the years. The movies were like my hyperfixation for a time. Something about the hook really hooked me. Perhaps it was the idea that there was a fixed order to death, and any disruption of that order could spell disaster for everyone. And of course, there was death itself as the invisible antagonist. The idea of an invisible, virtually unstoppable force coming for your neck is pretty unnerving. At the time I was a sponge for any kind of media willing to personify death, and while there's no physical form ever given to death in the series, debatably, it was close enough to pique my interest. I'm assuming most everyone already knows what the movies are about. Someone gets a premonition of a disaster before it happens, and whether advertently or inadvertently, that person saves a handful of other people by causing a scene. Eventually, these lucky survivors begin dying off, one by one, in what can only be described as freak accidents. At some point, the main cast will usually cross paths with enigmatic mortician William Bloodworth, who, for some inexplicable reason, knows more than he has any right to. He'll tell them how they've cheated death, and how the Reaper has come to collect his due. There exists a lot of speculation about this character. Apparently the people who made the early Final Destinations vehemently deny Bloodworth's death, but most fans aren't entirely sold on that one. Anywho, upon Bloodworth expositing the truth, the characters usually steel themselves in an attempt to fight off the inevitable for as long as they can. In the earlier movies, there are less outs. If you survive death's attempt on your life, the order skips you and moves on to the next person in line, but this isn't a fix-all, as once everyone else in line is dead, it's gonna circle right back to you, and it's gonna keep circling until it gets you. Later it's revealed that new life can defeat death, which is depicted as dying and being resuscitated, but let's just say this theory is later disproven, as both characters it happens to die for real off-screen. In the original ending for the first movie, Clear broke the curse by getting pregnant with Alex's baby, and from what it sounds like, this was supposed to actually work. But that ending was scrapped in favor of a different one, so canonically it's unclear if pregnancy has any bearing. The only established solution, then, that's not just a band-aid for a bullet hole, seems to be revealed in the 5th movie. If you kill someone, you get to take the remainder of years they would have lived and add it to your lifespan, which technically I don't think has been disproven as of yet, but that also begs the question, if you're a serial killer, would you just become immortal in the Final Destination universe? Or is there a ceiling on it? See, there's tons more mileage to explore, a veritable army of unanswered questions. I'm pretty curious what all this new movie will broach, but part of me wonders if movie length is enough time to hone in on everything that needs honing in on. We're getting to the point where the formula is starting to repeat, so I really hope they can pull a 5 and add a little more intrigue into the mix. Where a lot of horror franchises seem to fall prey to the curse of redundancy, I feel like Final Destination has the most potential to break that mold, and to continually shapeshift into something more and more interesting. It helps that there's still so much we don't know. Past me used to spend hours browsing discussion threads and conspiracy theories in relation to the FD universe. Whenever I'd get low on energy or motivation, it had a weird way of perking me up, and getting the old neurons firing again. Years out from that obsession, I conclude this. I personally think they should make a television series out of it, where all these possibilities can be fully realized. For example, it's been shown if you're on death's list, he won't let you kill yourself ahead of your time. How far does that extend? If someone throws themselves off a building, or, say, hurls themselves into the propeller blade of a helicopter, will they just not die? Can someone just be a talking head in the Final Destination canon? Because death is just that stubborn? The unhinged potential of this! And if you don't want to do something that incredibly stupid, you could explore darker, more serious avenues. Someone could be grievously injured by the inciting disaster, but death won't allow them to die because it's not their turn yet. They could be blind, deaf, paralyzed, trapped in their own body with only their subconscious as company, and whatever's giving the premonitions could start trying to communicate with them through that deeper subconscious. This character would have the answers to this great mystery revealed to them, but the problem would be relaying that to other people on the outside, and relaying that in time before Death's list circled back to finish them off. All this could elapse in tandem with the usual characters getting picked off one by one thing. It wouldn't even have to be the main character. The paralyzed person could be a side character, and their mind stuff could be a subplot, so not to detract from the trademark flavor of the franchise. You could literally animate the mind scenes, and have them be as trippy and brutal as you wanted them to be, like one of those psychological Adult Swim shows. With this kind of framework, you'd kinda have carte blanche to do whatever. And that's just one suggestion. Again, one of the things that draws me to this franchise is the sheer breadth of possibility. Not a lot of horror franchises have this many routes they could go. not organically anyway. Personally, I like the idea of an R-rated supernatural type spin-off series, where the source of the premonitions is explored, where the truth behind what's killing these people is explored, and where there's an arc with an achievable but unguaranteed victory at the end. This way, you could be as creative as you wanted to with it, and in addition to expounding on the metaphysical elements, you could expound on the one human constant who ties the movies together. Explore what Bloodworth is in relation to life and death. Is he a psyop? Whose proverbial payroll is he on? Is he Death's messenger? Is he pretending to be? He seems way too involved in everything to just be an average Joe, and since Tony Todd has passed away, you could circumvent any perceived disrespect by showing these things through flashbacks of a young Bloodworth. That way you wouldn't have to awkwardly replace him, and everything would still feel natural. I've never read the Final Destination novels, but I know enough about them to figure the authors were given a vague set of parameters to work with, and past that was the liberty to twist the FD universe to their liking. In these novels, death is portrayed as everything from an eldritch horror made of decomposing corpses to an elderly black man with a cane. This is a really cool way of going about things. Think Batman. There's a blue million iterations of the same story. Over the years, so many writers and creators have been given the clearance to take this concept and essentially run wild. The bones are there, but only the bones, and that still allows for a lot of creative flexibility. Now apply this idea to the Final Destination movies. Unsure of where to start? Allow me to direct you to a pretty epic starting line. And now, it's here I don my favorite accessory, my tinfoil hat. If ever at a loss, the franchise could always delve into fan theories and utilize those to continue its momentum. I've heard theories that it's life itself giving the premonitions. If there's a sentient death force in the FD universe, would it not stand to reason that life would be a sentient force too? I believe I've heard theories that it's some angelic entity giving the premonitions in an attempt to thwart the tragedies designed by the demonic force of death. Or it could be one of those, the more people fear this entity, the more powerful they get type situations. And if for some reason the fear of death is on the wane, this could be Death's gambit to fix that and to recoup his loss. He could bait the survivors to, well, survive with these unexplained premonitions. And once they've taken the bait, he could bring the axe down, making brutal examples of anyone willing to cheat him. That would explain the insane gore that comes with a lot of these deaths. I know a long-time question hanging over the franchise has been, if death wanted you dead, why not just go for a heart attack or brain aneurysm? That way it would be fast and easy and efficient. And beyond the surface level answer, because then there wouldn't be a movie, this would technically answer that in a more satisfying way. It's more than just capricious anger, it's pragmatism. He's harvesting the resulting fear to fuel his power. Even more far out, I've seen someone postulate that the FD universe is just a program, and the force of death is just a twisted programmer toying with the virtual denizens for his own amusement. Residents of this virtual world wouldn't have the awareness that they're in a simulation. Think The Matrix, but a version where everything is designed to kill you, where oxygen, rather than being a simple accelerant, is more explosive than gasoline, where those terrifying log trucks you get behind on the freeway bring all your worst-case scenarios to life. Where, for all intents and purposes, Murphy's Law is the only law that matters, and Rube Goldberg is the congressman who passed it. Or, and this is a wild one, maybe death is being framed. I don't really see this theory floating around as much as I'd like to, if at all. It's got some serious teeth, and in my opinion, it's one of the more interesting ones. It could be the result of a feud of entities, where one wants to further besmirch the reputation of another. Or, if you wanted to get insanely experimental, you could pin it on a wannabe alchemist, trying to peddle his snake oil elixir of life to the masses. He could use witchcraft behind the scenes to frame death as this malevolent tyrant, and scare people into buying his product. He would dole out the premonitions and butcher the survivors. He could have these psyops in place, pushing this false narrative that death is behind everything. And, if you wanted to truly get all anime about things, you could actually introduce Death as a character later on in the story, but have it be this extreme subversion of expectation if you do, and have him join the main cast of characters in trying to stop the alchemist. The snake oil elixir could secure immortality but have a drawback, like being unable to stop the aging process, or heal maladies and injuries. Thousands of people could end up essentially stranded in themselves, all under horrific circumstances, and the main characters would have to create an inroad for Death so he could release them from their self-created prisons. There would be a lot of opportunities for emotion, usually born of grief, existential dread, and general horror, all staples of the Final Destination brand. You can make the alchemist a sympathetic villain, a snake in the grass, or a very human blend of both. It might be too extreme, as Final Destination does like to stick to certain parameters, and if you elucidated the mystery, then perhaps the charm would be lost. Maybe it's like the strange man from Red Dead, or Anton from No Country. To explain them would be to ruin them. The fun is in the speculation. So for now, I suppose I'll just stick to my fanfictions, whether they be hypothetical, or the two I actually wrote way back when. One of which seemingly predicted the disaster in the new movie almost 1-to-1. People gather atop this huge tower with glass floors, then they proceed to horse around on said floors until the glass gives. Only in mine, because I have no chill, every floor was made of glass. That was literally the gimmick of the building. It was totally see-through. So when the top floor gives, the weight compounds with every floor from there down, and the main characters are essentially Blade Runner down like 30 stories, which would probably cost like $1 billion to shoot IRL and might actually get someone hurt. So probably for the best they didn't do that. Maybe this is just the abyss finally staring back, telling me that I know this franchise way too well, and I really need to get a life. Will I take its advice? Who knows. So, now that the corpse of Final Destination has been resuscitated, what are your hopes for the future of the franchise? Opine in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching.